Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? All right, today, inshallah, we are going to continue talking about the database management environment. Okay, so we stopped uh, on this concept, DDL and DML, I guess. Previously, we have discussed the ANSYS Spark three-level architecture, and we discussed about the external, conceptual, and internal levels. And we map between the three schemas, external, conceptual, and conceptual internal schemas. Okay, then we talked about the physical and logical data independence, right? Okay, so today we will talk about the sub-languages, DDL and DML. Previously, we have mentioned that the DDL is the data definition language, and by having a data definition language in the database management system, and it's what does it mean? DDL? Can anyone tell? DDL, data definition language, the ability to what in the database approach, the DDL, data definition. Qasim, are you sure? Data definition language. It defines the data structure, right? So data definition language is used to define the structure, all right, and data description. While on the other hand, data manipulation language, DML, anyone can tell? Just your understanding about it. DDL and DML. Yes, exactly, Mariam. Thank you. So DML is used to insert and update. Yes, Qasim. So DML manipulation, because it's DML or data manipulation language. So it's the ability to insert, or it allows user to insert, delete, update, and manipulate the data, manipulate data within the database. All right. So this is what we have covered previously. Now today, let's talk about it in more details. Just let me go to that slide. All right. So it's slow. It's not showing here. I don't know why. No, not this one. So we mapped. Yeah, we talked about this logical data independence, then physical data independence. Now we stopped here, right? Okay, so data sub-language. We cannot say it's a programming language because it can be embedded within the database management system. Okay, it's not a standalone programming language. All right, so it's called sub-language because it include, it's mentioned here, it constructs for all computing needs like conditional or let me just make it this one zoom in. Just a minute. Okay. So any statement in high-level programming languages can be provided also or constructed within this sub-language. So it's not a standalone programming language, it's just a sub-language. Now, we learned that it consists of two main parts, DDL and DML, as we mentioned before. The DDL Okay, the DDL is the part of the database management system which is used to define the data structure, or let's say the description of data. And we call it what? We call it the database schema, right? In this chapter, we call the data structure or the database structure or data definition or description. It's the database schema. So we call it database schema. So DDL is used to specify or define the database schema. It allows the database administrator to describe. He will be able to have a better understanding about what are the entities, what are the attributes and relationships required, and what are the constraints, integrity or security constraints. Okay, so these are described or defined by the DDL or the database administrator using the DDL sublanguage, the data definition language. All right, so defining or describing entities, attributes, relationships required, plus integrity or security constraints. All right, so these are defined or described in the DDL, while in the DML or the data manipulation language, it's used, as you mentioned, to read or update the database, and some manipulation data will be provided, manipulation operations held by the database. Okay, and this can be ensured by using some of let's say query languages, like we will discuss about it, like SQL, structured query language. Okay. Okay, so there are embedded sub-languages, as we said, and it can be embedded in a high-level language like C++. Okay, it can be a host for this sub-language. So, for example, here we have some steps to compile the embedded file. First, the commands in the sub-language, okay, it will be removed from the host language. All right, so for example, so C++, we mentioned it. If there is any embedded sub-language on CSS as a host language, this will be removed. The sub-language will be removed. The commands, okay, they will be removed from the host language. This is number one. And number two, it will be replaced by function calls. Number three, the pre-processed file will be compiled, okay, and will be placed as an object. Then it will be linked with the database management system, okay, with the database management system library. And then number five, executed when required. So this is how we can compile, how the file, any embedded sublanguage will be compiled from the host language or high-level programming language. First, it will be removed, okay? The command will be removed and replaced by function calls. Then it will be processed and compiled as an object, all right? Then it will be linked to the database management system and executed when needed. This is just an example, some steps to get some sub-languages compiled. Okay, so database languages, the sub-languages, okay, as we said, there are embedded commands within the higher level language, and sometimes it has unembedded, okay, or non-embedded commands. All right, so it can be directly input or can be directly used by the database management system. So some are embedded and some are non-embedded. All right, so some commands, let's summarize it as what I'm gonna say or mention now. Just a minute. Let me just change the color here. Okay, so the sub-languages, there are two types of commands that can be used by the sub-languages. Number one, embedded commands. All right, and this is how we can compile it. This is how we can compile. It will be indirectly compiled, or there will be a procedure or steps in order to compile it. This is number one for the sub-language command. Number two, it can include non-embedded, which can be compiled directly. All right. Okay, let's talk now more about DDL. DDL, or data definition language. Data definition language is an embedded sub-language or embedded sub-language in a higher level language, which allows database administrator to do what we mentioned it, to describe entities, attributes, and relationships, and any let me just this as a highlight, any integrity and security constraints. So as we mentioned, DDL, data definition language, allows the data administrator to describe, okay, the entities, attributes, relationship, and constraints. So, oh, sorry, sorry about that. All right. So it's like a tool that can be used to specify the database schema, right? We said before this is called the data structure or database structure will be called database schema, and this will be defined by the database administrator. So it will define a new one. Either it can define a new database structure or sorry, or modify an existing one. Okay, so there are two ways to do it. Either or to specify the database schema. Either it's a new database schema, or it's a modified. We can use DDL also to modify an existing database schema. But it cannot use to manipulate. Okay, so it cannot be used to manipulate the data. For example, in the question, in the test, if we have a question, true or false, data definition language is used to modify or insert or manipulate data within the database. True or false? True or false? DDL is used to modify. It's false. But if I rephrase the question, focus, DDL is used to modify an existing database schema. True or false? See, this is a tricky question. It's true. Why true? Because it can be either used to define a new database schema or modify an existing database schema. We are talking about modifying the entire database schema. All right, so this is true. While if we said, for example, DDL is used to modify data, and that's all, modify data or insert, manipulate, update, delete data, this is false. In that case only, it's false. All right, so got the point, right? So this is about DDL, how we can understand it, and more information here. And for example, in system catalog or database, or sorry, data description or data directory or data dictionary, we call it metadata. So there are so many terms here or alternative terms, We learned about system catalog before. We mentioned that it provides some description about the data stored in the database. We can call it system catalog or data dictionary or data directory or metadata. So all these terms are the same. So what we can see stored in this data dictionary or system catalog, this is a result, or what we can see in the system catalog is a result of the compilation of DDL statements. So the result of the compilation of DDL, okay, or DDL statements, it will be stored as tables, and can be called system catalog or data dictionary, data directory, or metadata. Okay, let me highlight this. So the result of the compilation of DDL statements will be like set of tables and stored as system catalog. All right, because we mentioned before, we mentioned that the system catalog includes description about data or data about data, and provides some definitions related to the database. So this system catalog is actually set of tables resulted from the compilation process of the DDL statements. All right. Now, so data will be described, will be more clear within the data dictionary or data directory, and it makes it easier to be accessed or manipulated. So for example, what we can see in the metadata, we can find some definitions of records. We can find some data items, which means what are the entities, what are the attributes, what are the relationships, what objects, other objects related to all these data items. So all will be included within the metadata. So the metadata, if I say, for example, system catalog will be including description of data or definitions of data. Data definition will be stored as a set of tables within the data dictionary. Okay, so data definitions and data structure will be stored, or let's say the compilation of the DDL statements. This is as a summary. Everything will be stored in the data dictionary. Okay, and let's talk here about the DDL and how many DDL we will, or the database management system will require. How many DDLs? How many DDLs? Actually, theoretically, it will need 3 based on the schemas. Okay, this is theoretically. All right. So theoretically, it will require 3 DDLs, or 3 DDLs will be required, and 1 for the external schemas, 1 DDL for the conceptual schema, and the third one will be for internal schema. But practically, we can say we have only 1 comprehensive DDL, which allows specification for external and conceptual schemas. So the external and conceptual schemas will require only one comprehensive DDL. Okay, you know what DDL makes, right? You know what is the main response, anyway, the main, let's say, responsibility, the main role of DDL. Database administrator can use DDL in order to define the database schema. All right, and the description or the compilation results will be stored as a system catalog. So how many DDLs a database management system will require? We can say theoretically it's 3 based on the 3 schemas. included within the database: external, conceptual, and internal. But practically, it is only one comprehensive DDL needed. Okay, for the conceptual or external and conceptual schemas. So focus on this. Be careful. Don't be confused if I ask you in the question, for example, true or false. In general, I will not specify. Okay. In general, how many DDLs a database management system will require? What the answer will be? How many DDL? I didn't specify. I didn't say theoretically or practically. Are you sure? Are you sure? It actually, there is only one comprehensive DDL. All right? So it's only one. It's only one. But if I say, if I specify, if I mention theoretically, how many DDLs required by the database management system? In this case, you can say 3 for each schemas, for external, for conceptual, and for the internal. Alternatively, or an alternative, I say practical, you can, so practical or in general, it will be only one comprehensive, all right? Okay, thank you. Now, let's talk, it's slow a bit here, the system is slow. I have prepared some summary for you. Let me just share it here so you will have better understanding about these concepts. Just let me see the file here. Okay, while it's opening, I will share this file. Maybe my PC is... Okay. Yeah, I have prepared some comparisons so you can learn, or you can see, understand this in more, or understand it clearly. It's clearly stated, like tables. I will share it to you. Just a minute, huh? I'm gonna share it. Let me just okay. I'm not sure what's the problem with this slide. I need to talk about this DML now. Okay, while it's opening, the DML, we said, on the other hand, the DML, what does it mean? The DML is like a sub-language, okay, used within the database management system to manipulate, okay, to provide manipulation operations. Like, for example, inserting new data, modification of data, retrieval of data, deletion of data. Okay, so all these can provide some functions on the database management system that allow manipulation operations. All right, and some statements can be constructed as well. Okay, so in your point of view, how many DMLs a database management system will require? How many DMLs? Based on what we have mentioned for about the DDL, we said only for the database, practically or in general, it's only one comprehensive DDL. What do you think about DML? Is it one or more? DML. What do you think? So DML, let me just stop sharing and then I will reshare it again. For DML, how many DMLs the database management system required? We have 3 schemas, right? And we need to modify, we need to insert, we need to delete, we need to do or update. All right. So what do you think? How many DMLs it will require? Anyone? For each schema, it will require 1. Yes, correct, Qasim. It means 3, right? It means 3 DMLs. Okay, excellent. So 3 DMLs required for the database management system, 1 for the internal, 1 for the conceptual, and the other one for the other one for the external. All right. So data manipulation applies to 3 levels or 3 levels. All right. I don't know what is the problem with the file today. Okay. So it will be applied to the external level. Okay. And conceptual level, then the internal level. All right. Now, how many parts here we have? We have a query language for the DML that can be used to retrieve the data or to set some manipulation operations and commands. So the query language is used for the data retrieval. Okay, and it can be sending some requests for retrieval of data. So if we say query language is the same as DML, is it correct or incorrect? They said the query language is same. It's a DML, but technically it's incorrect. Okay, so we cannot say query language is the same. It's the same as DML. We just, because only just part of the DML will be used to retrieve data or data retrieval, and that is the part of query language. So it's not the same. Technically, it's not the same. Okay. Incorrect. Now, how many DMLs we can find here? DMLs. So 2 types of DMLs, and can be used to manipulate or for manipulation operations. Number 1, procedural DML. Number 2, non-procedural DML. Procedural, it will specify how it will be obtained, how data or the DML statements will be obtained, and it will treat records individually because it's procedural. While non-procedural, it will describe what an output to be obtained. So procedural DML will describe how the input will be obtained. Sorry, how the output will be obtained. All right, the output here, because we are using the DML to retrieve data retrieval or data manipulation. Okay, so how the output will be obtained, this is by the procedural. If it is describing how the data to be obtained using the DML, this is the procedural. While if it is only describing what data to be obtained or what output to be obtained, it will be non-procedural, and it will treat the record as a set, or it will treat it as a set of records. So this is the difference between the procedural and non-procedural. I'm gonna give you more information so you can understand what is exactly the meaning what the meaning, what is the meaning of these two types of DMLs. First is the procedural. Okay, so we said first the procedural. It's as we said, describing how the output will be obtained. Okay, so it will tell the system what data and how, what and how to retrieve it, what data is needed and how it will be retrieved. So this is the procedural. So all data must be expressed by the user, all access operations, okay, all the procedures must be described. So here in this procedural, let me highlight this information. All data access operations will be expressed. So this is the main point about procedural DML, used to describe or tell the system what data to be obtained and how to obtain it, using some data access operations, expressing some data access operations. So it will be embedded with a high operation language, embedded high programming language, and all facilities, all expressions for each command will be handled. As an example here, for example, we have network or hierarchical DMLs. They are procedural. What is the meaning of that? Hierarchical means it treats individual records hierarchically. So for example, level by level. Or network, it can be like a network of records treated individually. So this is the procedural. This is an example about the procedural. And non-procedural, on the other hand, non-procedural, it will be a declarative language. This is another alternative name. And the user only need to describe or define the data, what data to be obtained. Okay, so only what data is needed, only. So no need to express how this data will be obtained. In the non-structural, it will work automatically. It's not requiring the user to express all the operations or all data operations over this data. Only he can specify just what to retrieve and what to update. Just simple retrieval and update statements. Okay. So there are here, it will be the database, or sorry, the DML statement, okay, that will retrieve or update a sort of records, a set of records. It will be translated into one or more procedures, and as I said, set of records will be manipulated. Okay, so not only one record, set of records, unlike the procedural. So the user is not aware of how data structures are implemented. So you know that only he is aware of what data to be obtained. So it's easier because you know, the codes in the programming languages, there are a number of code lines, right? Number of lines for the code. So for the non-procedural, it will be less lines or less code lines, and while the procedural will be more in so the code lines will be much more than the non-procedural. Okay. And an example For the non-procedural, this is SQL, which is Structured Query Language, or QBE, Query by Example. Okay, so these are examples for non-procedural language. Now let me just show you. I will share something so you will get better idea about it. Just let me share this. I'm gonna share the file. Let me share the screen better. Okay. Okay, you can see now. You will see the screen will appear. The file will appear after a while. Okay, see here. I have this simple table. It's just like a simple comparison between the procedural and non-procedural DML. We know that there are two types of DMLs, procedural, and it's used to specify what data is needed and how to retrieve it, while the non-procedural DML specify what data is needed only, okay, rather than how it's to be retrieved. The procedural DML will treat records individually, while the non-procedural will treat it as a set of records. Okay? The procedural will express all data access operations, like, for example, in hundreds of coding lines, while non-procedural will have simple tags and parameters with fewer coding lines. That's what I meant by coding lines. The procedural is difficult to learn, while the non-procedural is easy to learn. Examples about the DML, the procedural DML is, sorry, here, examples, hierarchical networks, hierarchical network DMLs. Here, SQL or QBE. The procedural is embedded in high programming language and third generation languages, while the non-procedural is declarative language like fourth generation language. Okay, so this is a comparison. Got the point? Now you know how we can distinguish between them, DMLs, procedural and non-procedural. This is easy, easy to be understood, right? Okay, let me also show you here. Yeah, what I need to say now for the next few slides, that the fourth generation language has some applications. Let me just make sure. Okay, some comparisons are here. There are some application for the fourth generation language, like form generators, report generators, graphic generators, and application. I'm gonna talk about them in a while. Okay, let me go back to the slides. Okay. Going back to this slide, fourth generation language. As we mentioned that the procedural DML can be embedded in high programming language like third generation language, okay, while the non-procedural can be embedded within the fourth generation. It can be as a declarative language as a fourth generation language. So the fourth generation languages, as we said, it can be procedural, providing some coding lines for the non-procedural, while third generation language for the procedural. See here, it's mentioned the 3 generation language is procedural. Okay, 4th generation language is non-procedural. Procedural requires 100 of lines. Okay, but fewer lines with. So I have summarized this in that table. See here. So 3 generation language will be hundreds of lines, fewer lines in 4th generation language. I'm gonna share that file. I'm gonna upload it, inshallah, on Blackboard, so you can find it and get all this information. Now, the 4th generation language, the user does not define the steps, but the parameters. Okay. So in the 4th generation language, there is parameters defined by the users, but not the steps. There are some tools in the 4th generation language can be used, and you have experienced that, right? You are using SQL. So SQL is a structured query language. It's non-procedural. It can be used as 4th generation language, and it can improve productivity. Okay, for the database management system. What kind of parameters you are using for SQL? Can you tell? Anyone can tell? The parameters used for SQL. You have experienced that, right? You have some generators, for example, or parameters or commands, tags. Can anyone give me an example for the SQL? Okay, insert, in order to insert a new record, right? Okay, what else? Create, right? Excellent, Qasim. And what else? We can delete also, right? We can update, yes, good, Ali. We can update, we can, yes, drop and delete. Correct, that's correct. So these are parameters. Simple tags can be used within the 4th generation language, and specifically SQL. Okay, what kinds of applications compassed by the 4th generation language? It's query language or presentation language. Like, for example, we have report generators. We can generate reports using the 4th generation language. And also application generators. It can also define, insert, update, and retrieve data. We call it application generators. We can use it to define, delete, or update. So it's very high level language, very high. So there are so many things here. Number 1, presentation language, like query language, which you are using now, SQL, and report generators. So this is the presentation. We can present. We can have data retrieved. We can present data as reports. Okay, so presentation language. Number 2, specialty languages, like, for example, we have spreadsheet, okay, and database languages. These are specialty. This is all compassed in 4th generation language, okay? And number 3, application generators that can be used to define, insert, update, and retrieve data from the database. And 4, also we can see very high level languages used to generate codes or application codes. This is it, application code. Okay, so as we said, SQL, structure, query language, or query by example. These are two examples for the fourth generation language. All right. There are so many applications, as I mentioned, form generators, report. I will share that table. It will be more easier for you to understand it. Then we have so form generators, for example, we allow users to define the appearance of the screen, colors, elements, and all information to be displayed. So this is can be defined by the user. All right. Then we have the report generators. Report generators allow users to ask the database to retrieve information from it for a report. For example, language oriented and visually oriented. These are report generators used to retrieve information as a report. Okay, so display information from the database as a report. Okay, what else we can see also here, language oriented and visually oriented, as I mentioned. So it can define data included in the report and how the report will look like. The visually oriented, similar to a form generator. Okay, but it can, for example, visually, you are allowed to specify the colors, the design, okay, the font type or size and something like that. The graphics generators, these are, by the way, these are applications of the fourth generation language, okay? Fourth generation language applications. What we can get from the fourth generation language as an application: form generators, report generators, graphics generators. So about the graphic generator, it can be also retrieving data from the database, displayed as a graph, and it can be bar chart, pie chart, line chart, scatter charts, or so on. So these are examples of the graphics. Application generators are used to have or allow to produce applications by specifying what the program is supposed to do and how to perform the tasks. Okay, so generate applications. So the user will be able to use some modules to write high-level language or to constitute some functions or choose from some functions in order to build up an application. Okay, so there are modules here that the user can use to build an application or create an application. Okay, so do you have any question? That was all for today. Do you have any question? All right, so we stopped here. Yes, sure. I'm going to upload it. Sorry, I'm going to upload it, and I will upload that the file with the comparison. So just to let you use it and compare between these things. You are welcome. Just now, I will upload it. Okay, after I finish this, I stop this recording. I will upload it. All right. So thank you for attending today, guys. Inshallah, hopefully it was useful. Yes, you will have Qasim. I will I will put the link on Blackboard, Qasim. Thank you for reminding me. I didn't upload the link, right? I will upload it for activity for chapter number 1 and this comparison for chapter number 2. Okay, I will put it as a folder. I will call it activities. All right, or supporting materials. Let's call it supporting materials. I will put this file, the summary, and I will put the link or any useful link for you. So don't worry. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. See you inshallah next time. Bye bye.